Here's what no one tells you about betrayal. It doesn't always come with shouting. Sometimes it comes with silence, and a set of keys gently placed on the table you built your life around. That night, my wife Amanda walked out of her own promotion party. Not stormed out, not embarrassed, just done. And somehow that made it worse. The room was full of people. Her boss, her coworkers, the same finance sharks who'd once told her she was too aggressive for leadership, and she'd proved them all wrong. This was supposed to be her victory lap. Instead, her father raised a glass, smiled like a proud dictator, and declared, in front of everyone, that the house Amanda bought, remodeled, and paid for should come back to the family. Then he turned to her brother, who's never held a job longer than a haircut, and said, "You'll probably want to start with the flooring." Amanda didn't flinch. She just walked over, set her keys beside the charcuterie board, and left. No scene, no explanation, just quiet control. At the time, I thought that was the end of something. It wasn't. It was the beginning of a campaign so toxic, so manipulative, that if I hadn't lived through it, I'd think I was exaggerating. But I was there. I saw every step of it. And trust me, the real betrayal didn't happen at the dinner party. Came the next morning. The call came at 8:07 a.m., one of those early morning numbers that makes your stomach drop before you even answer. "Mr. Collins?" the voice said, too polite. "This is Rebecca from First Metro Mortgage. We flagged a request to update the mortgage contact details on your property. We just need to confirm. Was that initiated by you?" It took me a second to even process what she was saying. Amanda was still upstairs, curled up in bed, probably thinking about how fast a celebration can turn into an ambush. "No," I said. That wasn't us." There was a pause. The kind of pause that says, "Oh no, this is going to be a problem." "Well, someone attempted to authorize a transfer of primary responsibility. We stopped it, of course. But the request came with full documentation, passport photo, tax ID, even banking info. All of it under your wife's name." I didn't say anything, because I already knew who did it. Amanda hadn't even touched her emails yet, and somehow I knew. Her parents weren't just overstepping. They were trying to steal her house, and they came armed with her stolen identity. I went upstairs. Amanda was still in bed, scrolling like nothing had happened. I sat on the edge of the mattress and told her everything. She didn't ask why. She didn't even look surprised. All she said was, "So that's what the surprise visit last weekend was for." See, a few days before the party, her mother had popped in just to say hi, brought cookies, stayed too long, asked where Amanda kept the home documents, just in case of emergency. Back then, we thought it was awkward. Now it was obvious. That visit was a recon mission. And the cookies? Just camouflage. I wanted to call the police. Amanda didn't. Not yet. She was calm in that eerie, dangerous way she gets when she's thinking 10 steps ahead. "Let's see how far they're willing to go," she said. Spoiler, they were willing to go a lot farther. That phone call wasn't the betrayal, it was just the spark. What came next? That was the matchbook, the gasoline, the first real sign that Amanda's family wasn't trying to win her back. They were trying to erase her entirely. 2 days later, I came home to find Amanda standing in the driveway, arms crossed, lips tight, like she'd been standing there for a while. "Don't go inside," she said. I looked past her. Front door wide open, lights on, curtains drawn. Her mother's SUV was parked crooked across the curb like they'd showed up in a hurry, which, to be fair, they had. Amanda had left work early. "Gut feeling," she said, and walked in to find her father in the kitchen, casually sorting through the filing cabinet like he was looking for a recipe. Her mother was upstairs in our bedroom, and her brother in the living room measuring walls with his phone. When she asked what they were doing, her mom gave a little laugh and said, "Well, we assumed you wouldn't mind us getting a head start on things." They had let themselves in. No knock, no call. Just used an old spare key that Amanda had forgotten existed, because it had been taped behind the gutter since before we met. That key had lived through 5 Thanksgivings, 2 layoffs, a broken washing machine, and a stray dog named Milo we almost adopted. And now it was being used to stage a hostile takeover of our home. Amanda didn't raise her voice. She didn't scream. She just said, "Out. Now." And when her brother tried to laugh it off, Amanda said one word that shut him up instantly: trespassing. She stood there until they left. All three of them. Her father muttering about family loyalty, her mother acting like she'd just been personally wounded, and her brother still clinging to the fantasy that this was his fixer-upper project. She changed the locks that night. All of them. And that should have been the end of it. But people like Amanda's family? They don't take boundaries as a warning. They take them as a challenge. The next day, the smear campaign began. It started small, like all fires do. One of Amanda's clients emailed to reschedule a meeting. Said something vague about recent events and needing to let things settle. Amanda didn't think much of it at first. People cancel. People get busy. But then it happened again. And again. A third client canceled entirely, no explanation. Then came the LinkedIn messages, quiet, polite apologies from contacts she'd spent years building relationships with. Something about needing to pause engagement due to reputational risk. Reputational risk? She pulled up her company's online reviews. And there it was. A flood of brand new 1-star ratings, all posted within 48 hours. Different names, different cities, but the language? Identical. Same phrasing. Same accusations. She's unstable. She threatened her own family. Wouldn't trust her with monopoly money, let alone mine. It was surgical. Just believable enough to cast doubt, just vague enough to be hard to disprove. It looked less like a smear campaign and more like whispers, rumors that could poison everything she'd built without ever showing a face. And the worst part? People believed it. Not because it was true, but because it was easy. Easier to believe a successful woman in finance was too emotional than to believe her own parents were trying to rob her blind. She called her firm's PR team. Their advice? Maybe lie low for a few weeks. She called her parents. Got voicemail. She called her brother. He answered and had the nerve to say, "Actions have consequences, Mandy." That night, Amanda sat at the edge of her bed, hands in her lap, eyes hard. "I think I need to go on the record," she said. "You mean talk to the police?" I asked. "No," she said. "I mean court. Lawyers. Affidavits. I'm not hiding while they burn my name to the ground." And just like that, something shifted. This wasn't about the house anymore. This wasn't about boundaries or keys or contracts. This was about war. You know that look people get when they realize they've pushed the wrong person too far? Amanda's father had that look when he got served at his country club. Right in front of 2 board members and a man he'd been golfing with since the Clinton administration. Restrained order. Cease and desist. Civil complaint for attempted fraud and identity misuse. All wrapped up in a crisp envelope handed off like a cocktail napkin. Amanda didn't flinch when we filed. She'd spent the week with a lawyer who looked like she'd been raised on depositions instead of cartoons. Sharp, precise, and furious on Amanda's behalf in a way that made me feel like we were finally on offense. Like we weren't just dodging bullets, we were loading our own. I'll be honest, I didn't think it would work at first. Her family had money, connections, reputations. Amanda? She had evidence. But it turns out that's all you really need. Digital trail from the fraudulent mortgage attempt. IP addresses tied to her brother's devices. Security cam footage of them inside the house uninvited. Even the smear campaign? We traced half of it back to dummy accounts registered using her father's business email address. A rookie move, really. The court date was set. Her family lawyered up fast, hired the kind of firm that uses 3 last names and a coat of arms on the letterhead. But that didn't stop Amanda. She walked into that courtroom like it was just another meeting on her calendar. And when she told the judge how her family had tried to rewrite the truth and steal what wasn't theirs, she didn't raise her voice once. It wasn't rage. It was strategy. And it worked. The judge issued a temporary protective order. Froze any financial moves connected to the house. Barred her family from contacting Amanda's clients or stepping within 200 feet of the property. Her brother laughed under his breath when it was read aloud. So the judge repeated it, then held him in contempt. Just like that, bam. Handcuffs. Courtroom silence. Amanda didn't even blink. I leaned over to her and whispered, "You okay?" She didn't look at me. Just kept her eyes on the bench and said, "They're just getting started." She was right. Because spoiled people don't stop when they lose power. They double down. Turns out restraining orders work better on strangers than they do on entitled parents. especially the kind who still believe family is a trump card that gets them out of anything, including federal law. It started with letters. Handwritten. Flowery. Full of nostalgia and emotional blackmail. We only wanted what's best for you. This house was always meant to be part of our legacy. You've changed, Amanda. We barely recognize you anymore. One of them included a photo of Amanda at age 6 sitting in a sandbox with a note that said, "Don't let this little girl lose her roots." Roots? These people broke into her house, stole her personal documents, tried to transfer a mortgage out from under her, and now they wanted to play sentimental? It was pathetic, but also calculated. Because the next wave wasn't letters. It was Facebook posts. Long, crocodile tear monologues about betrayal by blood, complete with photos of the family smiling at past holidays. Her mother tagged her in one, praying for our daughter's heart to soften. And just like that, the comments poured in. Church friends, distant relatives, people who hadn't seen Amanda since she had braces, all sharing sympathy for her poor, devastated parents. Because no one posts about the lawsuit. No one mentions the attempted fraud or the fact that her brother is currently banned from stepping within 2 blocks of our mailbox. But Amanda didn't respond. Not publicly. Not once. Instead, she got to work. She had every piece of evidence cataloged, organized, and notarized. Started documenting their online harassment. Called in a reputation firm to help undo the damage her family had spread. And through it all, she didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She just got quieter. Not defeated. Focused. That's when I realized something. Amanda wasn't just fighting to protect herself anymore. She was planning to end this. Not just for now. Permanently. You ever watch someone flip a switch? Like one day they're trying to reason, trying to salvage what little thread of dignity still exists, and then the next, they're done pretending. Done explaining. That was Amanda. It happened the morning her HR director called. Apparently, her parents had sent an anonymous letter, typed and signed, printed on cheap paper like that somehow made it more credible, accusing Amanda of emotional instability and unprofessional behavior stemming from family trauma. They didn't even spell her last name right. I found her in the kitchen that morning, not crying, not even angry. Just standing there in silence, holding the letter like it was a piece of junk mail. "I guess that's the last line they had left," she said. "Attack my work." She didn't say anything else. But that night, she pulled out a folder she hadn't touched since the restraining order. Inside, every receipt, every bank record, every message, and every voice memo. Dates. Screenshots. Digital trails her family never thought she'd bother collecting. "This isn't about defending myself anymore," she told me. "It's about finishing what they started." And then she made a list. A real one. Not just in her head. Lined notebook paper, titled, Leverage. Not revenge. Not pettiness. Just facts. Things her parents had spent years covering up. Tax oversights. Misreported business expenses. Payments to her brother that didn't quite match up with his income claims. Things that wouldn't look good in front of a federal auditor. I asked her what she planned to do with it. "Nothing yet," she said, tapping the page. "But if they want to drag my name through the mud, I'll make sure they know what rock bottom actually looks like." Next thing I know, she's on the phone with an attorney, not hers, a new one. A corporate lawyer who specializes in financial misconduct. The kind of person who doesn't get out of bed for anything less than 6 figures or a public takedown. And that's when it hit me. Amanda wasn't just rebuilding her name. She was going after theirs. Not emotionally. Not violently. Legally. Publicly. Relentlessly. And the best part? They had no idea what was coming. It started with a manila envelope, thick, official, and delivered to her father's office by a courier in a navy blazer. Not a lawsuit. Not yet. This was a formal notification of a federal audit request. 3 hours later, her brother got the same. That night, their family group chat lit up. Amanda wasn't in it anymore, of course. But her cousin Erin was. And Erin, bless her drama-loving heart, sent screenshots. "What is this, Mandy? Some kind of threat? You're destroying this family over a house? You don't come after blood." And my personal favorite from her mother. "This isn't you. You're not like this." But they were wrong. This was Amanda. Not the version they liked, compliant, quiet, desperate for approval, but the version they created, forged by years of gaslighting, control, and subtle sabotage. This was Amanda with a spine made of litigation and a jaw that didn't clench, it locked. While her family scrambled, Amanda stayed calm. She didn't gloat. She didn't post cryptic quotes on social media or brag to friends. She just showed up to work, met deadlines, drank her coffee, and kept pressing forward. Because she didn't need revenge. She needed distance. And accountability. And that's exactly what started happening. The audit triggered a chain reaction. Amanda's father's company, built on decades of creative accounting, suddenly had to explain a 6-year pattern of undeclared revenue shifts. Her brother's freelance income? Yeah, turns out he never declared a dime of it. Turns out being unemployed for tax purposes doesn't mix well with buying a Tesla. And here's the kicker, none of this came from some emotional explosion. It came from Amanda sitting at our kitchen table one Friday night with a pen and a legal pad. They wanted a war. She gave them an audit. And just when they thought it couldn't get worse, it did. Because the public fallout was still ahead. You know what they say, people care more about how something looks than what it is. Amanda's parents? They were experts in that department. Church board, HOA committee, 2 charity galas a year, and a carefully curated online presence full of Sunday brunches, golden retrievers, and faith, family, legacy captions under matching holiday pajamas. So when the audit news broke, it wasn't just financial. It was cosmetic. It was reputational. Suddenly, those country club invitations stopped coming. Their pastor recommended stepping back from leadership. One of their longtime business partners quietly pulled out of a deal her father had been bragging about for months. It was like watching the paint peel off a perfect White House, slow, loud, and impossible to unsee. And Amanda? She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Because once people smell smoke, they go looking for fire. And her family's online trail, years of subtle digs, lies, posts about Amanda's decline, got picked up by the same community they used to impress. A local columnist even published a soft exposé about family wealth and internal sabotage, thinly veiled but unmistakable. Comments flooded in. Amanda's inbox? Full of apologies. I'm so sorry I believed them. I should have reached out sooner. I see it now. Her father posted a 5-paragraph statement about loyalty and privacy, trying to get ahead of the story. Too late. Because while he was writing it, his son, Amanda's brother, was being held in contempt again. This time for violating the restraining order by trying to sneak onto the property under the excuse of retrieving old family items. The only thing he retrieved was a night in county holding. And through it all, Amanda never raised her voice. Never played the victim. She just kept building. A new job, a stronger reputation, and a boundary so clear even her therapist called it surgical. That's when I realized this wasn't a comeback. It was a transformation. The daughter they tried to keep under control? She wasn't coming back. The woman standing in her place? She wasn't asking permission anymore. So here's the thing about legacy families, they're obsessed with the idea of what we leave behind. But Amanda? She finally realized her biggest mistake was believing she owed them hers. It started with a name change. Not the dramatic kind where you vanish and reinvent yourself in a city with better bagels. Just one sharp legal strike. She filed a petition to remove her family's name from all business affiliations. Old trusts, accounts, documents where her father had sneakily listed himself as an advisor. She wasn't erasing history. She was correcting the lie. That same week, she had the house fully retitled, everything scrubbed clean, notarized, locked tighter than a Swiss bank. We installed new cameras, new access controls, even changed the landscaping. Why? Because her brother had started driving by again. Real subtle. Same time every Wednesday. Like we wouldn't notice the world's most predictable creep. Amanda's lawyer served another notice. Violation. Fines. Next step, arrest. And guess what? It stopped. But the real twist came when Amanda's employer, the one her family had tried to poison, offered her a promotion. Not just a raise or a title bump. They asked her to lead the regional branch. Apparently, the way she'd handled the smear campaign and court battle, it got noticed. Grace under fire. Power under pressure. All the things her parents once used to call her too cold or too intense for had made her the most trusted person in the room. And then, just to put the final nail in the facade, Amanda filed a civil suit. Not for money. For declaratory judgment. A formal, legal record that her parents had falsified documents, attempted fraud, and engaged in a sustained campaign of harassment. The goal wasn't punishment. It was truth. The kind that can't be buried in a family album. Her father tried to settle quietly. Her mother sent a letter through a lawyer claiming health issues and emotional distress. Amanda didn't respond. Because by then, she understood the truth. Closure isn't an apology. It's a door you close yourself. And once it's shut, you don't go back for the people who set the house on fire. You'd think after fraud, harassment, and a courtroom full of lies, there'd be nothing left to discover. You'd be wrong. The betrayal didn't come wrapped in threats or lawsuits. Came in the form of an email. Amanda was sitting on the porch, reviewing some final paperwork for the civil case, when her phone buzzed. Unknown sender. Subject line: "Thought you should know what your family's been saying." Attached was a forwarded message. A thread, actually, half a dozen emails exchanged between her parents, her brother, and someone else we never expected to see in the mix. Her ex. The one before me. The one who moved to Texas to work on himself. According to Amanda. Turns out he never left. Just got more discreet. In the messages, they'd been conspiring, months back, while Amanda was still climbing at work, to reach out to her ex, reconnect him with her before she strayed too far, and remind her who really knows her best. Let that sink in. While her family was smiling in her home, toasting her promotions, they were actively scheming to bring her ex back into the picture. Not romantically, at least not at first. It was about control. Her mother wrote that he'd always been manageable, and her father suggested he'd be a better influence than that husband of hers. Meaning me. That was the part that got me. They didn't just betray Amanda. They tried to erase me, too. What Amanda said after reading it still gives me chills. She looked up, dead calm, and said, "They never loved me. They just loved controlling the version of me that loved them back." She didn't cry, didn't scream. She just sent the emails to her attorney, filed them into the case folder, and walked inside to pour herself a glass of wine. That night, she didn't say much, just sat beside me on the couch, legs tucked under her, the way she used to before all this started. But I could tell. This wasn't heartbreak anymore. It was realization. The kind that doesn't break you. It burns off what was never real to begin with. You ever watch someone lose everything except their pride? It's a strange thing. Seeing a man stand behind a podium, trying to smile while his reputation crumbles in real time. That was Amanda's father. 3 weeks after the email bombshell, standing in front of the Rotary Club, giving his annual legacy speech. Except this year, there was no applause, because just 24 hours earlier, the local paper had run an exposé. Not a rumor, not speculation. Facts, documents, names. Amanda never sent the story in, but someone did. Most likely a reporter who'd quietly followed the civil suit, connected the dots, and ran with it. Title read, "Behind the Family Crest. Allegations of fraud, coercion, and generational control." Amanda's name was in the article, but not as a victim. She was listed as plaintiff, as in the one who stood up and said enough. It wasn't angry. It wasn't vindictive. It was clinical and devastating. The fallout came fast. Her father lost his seat on the nonprofit board. Her mother's boutique stepped back from a business partnership. Even her brother's personal brand, some lifestyle vlog he'd been pushing, got flagged and demonetized for false sponsorship claims. And then came the school. See, the local prep academy? The one her father's name had been engraved on since 1998? Amanda had gone there, donated to it, helped fund their scholarship fund even after she graduated. But after everything, she requested the family name be removed. She didn't make a scene, just sent a letter with evidence attached. And the board? They agreed. The plaque came down quietly that Friday. No press, no ribbon cutting, just a custodian, a screwdriver, and a tarnished name being unscrewed from the wall. Amanda didn't watch it happen. She was home, in her office, interviewing candidates for a new foundation she was launching. One focused on financial independence for women estranged from toxic families. I asked her later if it felt like revenge. She shook her head. "No," she said. "Revenge is when you try to hurt someone. This is just reality catching up." She went back to work. Meanwhile, her parents vanished from the social scene they used to dominate. No more garden parties. No more community leaders panels. And Amanda? She became someone they couldn't reach even if they tried. But we're not quite done. Because the final twist, the one no one expected, that was still waiting to be uncovered. We thought we'd seen it all. Court orders, identity theft, the smear campaigns. But the final piece didn't come from a judge or a headline, or even a witness, came from drywall. After everything settled, Amanda and I decided to renovate the upstairs study, turn it into something new. Symbolic, maybe? A space with no ghosts in the walls. Turns out we were half right. During demolition, the contractor called us in. Behind the built-in shelving, behind an old wood panel, there was a wall safe. One Amanda didn't install. One we didn't even know existed. It wasn't even locked. Just old. Sticky. Like it hadn't been touched in years. Inside? A stack of documents. Yellowed, brittle. But it wasn't the age that caught our attention. It was the contents. Amanda pulled the top sheet and went still. It was a signed agreement, one that predated her official mortgage. Dated 2 months before she closed on the house. Her father's signature was on it. It outlined a temporary transfer of financial responsibility for the down payment. Not legally binding, not registered, but detailed. Detailed enough to look legitimate to someone who wanted it to be. Amanda's jaw tightened. They were planning to claim the house was theirs, she said. From the start. She kept reading. A letter in her mother's handwriting addressed to their attorney. If Amanda insists on full independence, we'll need options in place to protect the family asset. In case she marries someone unaligned. Unaligned. I didn't have to ask who that meant. I was the outsider. The one without pedigree. The one who didn't fold. There it was. Not just fraud. Not just manipulation. This had been personal the entire time. Not about the house. Not even about Amanda. About control. Power. Making sure the daughter they raised didn't belong to herself or to anyone who didn't carry their last name. Amanda stared at the letter for a long time. Then she folded it neatly, walked to the fireplace, and tossed it in. No speech. No rage. Just silence. And then she turned to me and said, "Now we're done." But I wasn't. Not yet. Because there was still one last thing I needed to tell her. The one thing I'd kept quiet. Until now. There's a kind of silence that only exists between two people who've survived something together. Amanda and I had that silence now. It wasn't uncomfortable, it was heavy. Like there were still things neither of us had said. Things we'd maybe hoped would just stay buried. But one of mine didn't. It happened 6 months earlier. Quiet moment. Amanda was asleep on the couch after another brutal call with her lawyer. I was cleaning up. Her laptop had been left open on the dining table, screen dim, battery dying. I went to plug it in. Simple, automatic. But when I touched the trackpad, it woke. There was an email draft open. Unsent. Addressed to me. The subject line? If I disappear. Yeah. I didn't read it all. Just enough to understand. It was from back when this whole nightmare first started, after the dinner party, before the court battles. She'd written it like a contingency plan. A last resort message in case things spun further out than even she could manage. It said things like, "The documents are in the safe deposit box. Password's still your birthday. If they find a way to take everything, don't let them take you too. You were the only thing I chose that wasn't approved and the only thing that ever made me feel like I belonged to myself." I never told her I saw it. I closed the laptop, plugged it in, and sat beside her on the floor for 2 hours just watching her breathe. But now, after everything we'd survived, I needed her to know. So I told her. Told her about that night. The message. The way I hadn't known what to say, so I said nothing. Told her I didn't want to be another person in her life making decisions behind her back, even if I thought I was protecting her. She looked at me for a long time. Then she said, "I hoped you saw it." Not angry. Not surprised. Just calm. "I wrote it in a moment when I thought I might lose everything," she said. "And when I saw that it hadn't been sent, I knew if I didn't have to send it, maybe I wasn't alone after all." That moment, that finally honest moment, was the first time in years I saw her take a full breath. Not guarded. Not bracing. Just breathing. We had been through hell together. But we were still together. And now there was only one thing left to do. Say goodbye. Not to each other. To the version of her that still believed any of it had been love. Amanda didn't hold a grudge. She built one. Brick by brick. Document by document. Until it stood tall enough to block out everything her family used to be. But closure? That's not legal. It's personal. And it came one afternoon when we heard a knock at the gate. Not the front door. The gate. The one we had installed after the second restraining order, after the break-in attempt, after we realized that some people don't understand no unless it comes with steel and surveillance. I looked at the camera feed. It was her mother. Hair perfect. Smile frozen. Dressed like she was headed to a fundraiser, not the front lawn of the daughter she tried to erase. In her hand? A photo album. The old kind, tattered edges, clear plastic pages, that smell of dust and forced nostalgia. She held it up like a peace offering. Amanda stood beside me, arms crossed, completely still. The kind of still you only get after the storm's gone, when all that's left is wreckage and clarity. Do you want to talk to her? I asked. She shook her head. Not angry. Not even cold. Just finished. Play the audio, she said. So I tapped the mic. Amanda didn't even lean in. She just said, turn around. You're not welcome here. Her mother blinked. The mask cracked for half a second. I just wanted, she started, voice syrupy. Amanda cut her off. No. You wanted control. Now you want forgiveness without accountability. You don't get either. And with that she pressed the gate control. It slid shut in her mother's face like the end of a chapter. We watched in silence as the woman turned, slowly, still holding that album like it meant something. But it didn't. Not anymore. Because Amanda had something better now. Her name. Her house. Her story finally hers. Not defined by blood. Not claimed by inheritance. But earned. And me? I got to witness the most beautiful revenge there is. Living free. No fire. No chaos. No scene. Just Amanda standing at the edge of everything they tried to destroy, stronger than ever, with the door locked from her side.